You're listening to Stories to Create with your host, Cornell Bunting. Author, motivational speaker, and founder of EHAS Each Episode. Cornell sits down with inspiring voices to uncover the stories that shape who we are and who we're becoming. Get ready to listen, learn, and be inspired. The show starts now.
Yes. Welcome to another episode of Stories to Create podcast right here at EHAS Club. I'm your host, Cornell Bunting. I want to welcome you guys to another powerful episode of this show. And today we're going to explore journey, resilience, purpose, and impact. And today I am honored to bring on the show with me Dr. Eeka Marshall, a distinguished obstetrician and gynecologist who has dedicated her career to advancing women's health and empowering communities. I want you guys to know today in this episode, we will dive into her inspiring part in medicine, the challenge she has overcome, and the vital work she's been doing to support health, wellness, and of course, women, especially in a lot of these communities. Dr. Eeka, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cornell.
Oh, my goodness. It is so good to have you today. And I know that we've wanted to bring you on the show for a little bit now, but because of scheduling and stuff.
Yeah.
But we're here now.
Yep, we're here. I made it.
This is amazing. And I got to tell you, you're looking astonishing today.
Thank you.
Yes, this is beautiful. So for all you guys that's been waiting on her this morning at the practice facility, you'll soon have her. She hanging out with me right now.
Yep.
So for the show, you know, what we normally do is we take our listeners on this journey where we get you to tell a tale. And this tale stems from where you were born, grew up. So for us, we would love for you to tell our listeners, where were you born and grew up?
I was born in Gary, Indiana.
Ah.
Yep. And that's where I was raised all the way until I went to college.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went to college in Indiana as well, or you left Indiana?
No, I left Indiana and went to Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay. What was it like, you know, before, you know, going into the college world and stuff like that? Middle school to high school. What was that like?
Well, I grew up in a poor community.
Okay.
So, or I would say as a family of, my mom had 7 children and she raised us all by herself.
Wow.
So, we were on.
Hold on. Stick a pin there. So 7 kids.
Yep.
Was it one dad or?
2 dads.
2 dads.
Yeah. The first child had a different father. And
Okay.
then the rest of us, the 6 of us had the same father.
Ah.
Yeah.
And he left early.
They separated. They divorced.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
They divorced. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. When I was 5. Yeah.
Man, how challenging was that just to see your mom had to move the way she had to?
You know, she kept us in church. She was a woman of faith.
Okay.
And she's still alive, you know, but she
beautiful.
was a woman of faith. And I think her faith is what kept her, honestly, to raise 7 children on her own.
That's wild.
So yeah, we grew up in the church and where we spent the night in the church, you know, shut-ins is what they used to call it, where you're there for like all night prayer.
Yeah.
So we were definitely, grounded in our faith.
So the relationship with the siblings was good.
Yeah. Oh, you know, typical big brother stuff. Because she had 4 boys and then 3 girls.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So where do you fall in line of this?
I'm number 6.
Number 6?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That is amazing. So you have a lot of bigger brother and sister to look up to and all that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. They probably look up to me too, though, now.
Oh, there you go. Well, you know, when you choose a beautiful path and you start to make impact, that's a beautiful thing right there.
Yeah.
So you left high school with what type of mentality? What was your intention when you were done with high school?
Well, actually, starting at age 5, I knew that I wanted to be an obstetrician gynecologist.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. Yeah.
Right there from
Right
early
there.
age.
Early age. I was watching Sesame Street.
Okay.
Yeah, and they did a show on careers. They did Career Day, and Mr. Gordon was an obstetrician gynecologist.
Yes.
And when I saw him, they were pretending like he was delivering a baby, just kind of describing what he does.
Right.
And I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. And so I that summer I had just turned 5 in March, and so that fall I was going to start kindergarten.
Yeah.
And so I asked my mom over the summer, I asked her to help me learn how to spell this big word.
Wow.
And so when I went to kindergarten, Miss Garrett, she's my kindergarten teacher, she, how they ask kids, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah. And so I was like, I want to be an obstetrician gynecologist. And she was like, what? You know? And I was like, and I could spell it too. And so I spelled it for her. Yeah. I mean, she took me around to all classrooms, like, listen to this baby spell this big word. Like, it made me feel like I was so smart. Listen, teachers have a big impact on students.
They do.
Let me tell you.
They do.
So, I mean, the feeling, every time I tell that story, the feeling comes back to me, like how great that made me feel at 5 years old.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, so high school wasn't too challenging. It seemed like you were the A student.
I was a straight A student. Yeah.
That right on the head, people. That's amazing. So you were one of those students that kind of made sure you stayed out of the fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were sheltered though.
Okay.
I mean, but also I think sheltering us was a good thing in the sense that it didn't cause us to be in the streets, because it's easy to go to the streets, right?
Yeah.
But I also was just smart enough to I had a goal from the age of 5. I knew what I was supposed to do. Wow. So, and then I just had this natural ability, like I could read a book and quote to you what was on page 14. That's like beautiful. I had a photographic memory. So I was just smart. Like I read it and boom, it's in my head. And then even as I went to college and in medical school, I just felt like God gave me this supernatural ability to understand medicine, understand the human body just in a different way. Like it just came natural. I don't really know how to explain it other than it must have been God that gave that ability to me. Cause
that's beautiful.
I don't know.
One of the acts, like, why is the process take so long for someone to pursue anything in the medical field where, you can one day open your own practice? You have to do so much time. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to complete, between college and all that before you got to where you really need to be doing your thing?
Yep. It's a 12-year process. Wow. Yeah. 4 years undergrad, 4 years medical school. And then you go into your specialty. So 4 years of a residency program.
Man, you got to be patient, guys.
Yeah.
Fully.
12 years. You miss a lot of things though. Like during those times, I felt like residency, I probably missed the most, bursts, because people are getting married. People are, at that time at my age, my friends were getting married and having babies, and I missed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I missed a lot of stuff.
You were getting done what you needed to
I was. I wish there was a better balance, but there wasn't. But some friends fall off along the way because you couldn't support them, and life was a little challenging. But I was dead focused on what I needed to do. So,
So where you were, did you have to deal with a lot of challenges? Was there ever a time when you felt like, oh my goodness, this is a little bit more challenging than I thought it would be to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish?
Yes, I actually went through, I would say it was maybe a year or a couple of years of just I felt like my brain didn't give me the power that it had always given me, like that ability. Right. And it was right after I had my first child, and I was in medical school, and I had it was during pregnancy. Actually, I had what I would call pregnancy brain, because pregnancy brain is real. I've experienced it, and I'm sure most moms have as well. It's just your brain doesn't work as well. Like your memory isn't, like my memory wasn't as sharp. Something happened. Yeah. And I'm sure it was hormonal. Cause then when I had the child, then I felt like my brain recovered. But yeah, it was weird, but it posed a challenge where I actually failed a test. And I'm like, I don't fail.
Wow.
So that would make me realize, oh no, something is wrong.
Yeah. Something
is wrong. And I told my OBGYN, who actually at that time was my mentor as well, Dr. James.
Yeah.
And I told him about pregnancy brain, and he was like, don't tell nobody that. But it was real, you know? So I said, maybe a man can't understand it, but from my point of view, going through it was, that was the worst.
Wow.
Yeah.
If someone was to ask you, like, what is the most important thing, like, young men should understand about reproducing health, what would you say to them? Reproductive
health, I would say it's great if people can pre-plan. You know, if you could plan your pregnancies and actually make sure your body is in the most optimal health. Right. You know, there's a lot of women who just want to have a baby, but then, you know, you're stuck being super high risk because you didn't take care of your body. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So I would say before having babies, take care of your body first.
Yeah, you need to understand your body. And
you need to understand before you put a baby in there that then wreaks havoc on your system. Yeah. You know, so things don't get easier during pregnancy most of the time. Right. You know, those diseases get harder. Yeah. That weight gains more, you know, so it becomes a huge burden. And with the burden of obesity just in general in our country, it makes pretty much most pregnancies high risk.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You know, as a young man that come from a Caribbean island and kind of seen some things that I don't know if I've ever seen none of that here because they do it so different. And this is crazy because, like, I know my mom did natural birth where she had us in the tub. Like, and had like a, what do you call those? Like a
doula or a midwife?
Midwife, would come and, you know, get, and they do the cutting and they do the burying and all. It was wild. Like, but they don't do that type of stuff here. Like they
do some water births. It depends on which hospital you go to.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. Is that like, it's almost sound like that is somewhat safe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's safe.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's safe.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, if you're high risk, well,
then that's a different case.
It kind of is a different case because the thing is you when you're high risk, you want baby monitored more consistently or constantly. Where if you're in a tub, you can't put electronics on your tummy to monitor the baby.
Right.
Maybe one day technology, they'll have waterproof, electronic, tachometers, but that's not the case right now. So you can't monitor the baby.
So I know my guys that have that not medical brain would appreciate this question, but why when, women, let's say they want to have natural birth, but then they're telling them they're not, and I don't know if ovulating is the word or when you have to stretch for the baby to come natural, and if that doesn't happen, they have to cut. Like what makes that get to a point where it's not going to stretch and they have to cut?
So there's just a number of criteria that we all use. It's just kind of based on our guidelines that's put out there by the American College of Obstetrician and Gynecologist. So we go by the guidelines. And if if the woman has been, for example, more than 4 centimeters or 6 centimeters, and she's been in labor, her water's broken, she's been in labor for, more than X amount of hours, and that baby, her cervix hasn't dilated or she's completely dilated and the baby just hasn't come down into the pelvis. After so many hours, you call it quits. You have to, so.
Because the most important part is the head. Because the head is the biggest part of the baby.
Yeah. And so even as the obstetrician, you go in there and you check and you assess. And if baby's head is getting more swollen, then you know that baby's not going to fit. It's not going to fit. And you can feel the bones start to override like this. So when you're checking and touching the head, if you feel overriding bones, that means that the pelvis is small and the baby's trying to squeeze his head in there. Wow. And now the bones are overriding and the swelling is occurring. It's not going to fit.
While in residency, what would one of the most interesting thing you could remember that you're like, you know what? This is pretty cool. Like I definitely, I'm happy that I chose this path.
I would say my best experience in residency was working with our gyne oncologist, Dr. Hicks.
Okay.
He was amazing.
He was that guy.
He was that guy. He made surgeries fun. And I was told that even in residency, I was told that I had good hands. Dr. Maxwell, who's now program director in that, over that residency program, she used to tell me, you have good hands.
Ooh.
And what that told me, that actually gave me more confidence because good hands mean you're delicate with tissue. Like you're not ripping apart tissue. You know, I'm very careful with tissue. I handle tissue well. Handle the scalpel well. I'm a good surgeon. And I take care. I sew patients up very nicely. And so she used to say, you have good hands. So when I work with Dr. Hicks, he was a gynecologist. So he did like major surgeries and stuff. And he was so confident that he was like, anything you mess up, I'll fix,
Wow.
And so he just used to let us residents go at it, and surgery was the best. I love being in the OR. I love cutting open people. Yeah.
Wow. Now, when did you transition to Florida? What was the age that you decided, you know what, I need to go to the Sunshine State?
5 years ago, 2020.
2020.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I decided in 2019. It had snowed in Michigan.
Yeah.
Or Indiana. It had snowed in June of 2019, and I was like, this will be the last time I'm here looking at snow.
Wow.
And by December, I was out of there.
You was out of there.
I was out of there.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
The medical field in itself is just an amazing field, because I feel like everyone, I think things that happen, whether it's in the ER or in the regular practice, it makes you appreciate life in a different way than how other people would see life.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you work in the ER. A few times, yes.
Yeah, we go down there for like consults and stuff.
The relationship between like a brain surgeon and a gynecologist, what does that look like?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Every young person carries a story of hope, of struggle, of dreams waiting to rise. But in too many underserved communities, those stories go unheard.
At EHAS Inc, everyone has a story. We believe every voice deserves a chance. Through mentorship, empowering programs, and storytelling workshops, we help youth discover their purpose, strengthen their mindset, and build a future they can be proud of.
From classrooms in Jamaica to communities across Southwest Florida,
EHAS is changing lives,
one story at a time.
but we can't do it alone. Join us, become a mentor, volunteer, donate, help us fuel the next generation of leaders, creators, and change makers.
Visit EHAS.org today, because when you help a young person share their story, you help them change their world.
Well, I mean, we don't usually interact with neurosurgeons.
Right.
I mean, it would have to be, if I was interacting with a neurosurgeon or touching any one of their patients, it would be because that patient complained of something gynecologic, like, abnormal bleeding, or they say they got a mass down there or foul odor, so then they'll consult us and say, okay, can you see this patient?
Okay.
But that would be the only time I would interact with someone like that. And even they themselves are specialists. So usually there's someone else managing that patient, internal medicine or somebody, the general doctors.
I like that. Now, you have kind of find this calling where you you want to help women in like a way to kind of educate them to fully understand them, I guess.
Yep.
What has that journey been like? And like, when did you decided to step into that? Like, you're doing more than just the regular career path.
Yeah. I have to say that has always been a part of how I practiced.
Okay.
And it wasn't like anything intentional. I think it's just me. I think it's just, I would call it a gift of teaching.
Yes.
Where I can explain something hard or something difficult medicine wise. I can explain something difficult and put it in terms where everybody understands it.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, I've had lots of patients even say, nobody's ever told me that. Yeah. I mean, probably 80% of my patients say, no one's ever told me that.
Yeah. So you've had like women communities from in Michigan, or you started that when you came to Florida?
In Michigan, so I was part of a private group. I was hospital owned group practice. But I would say me teaching went as far as like my group of patients.
Yeah.
In that community, I didn't have where I went out to the community to teach.
Okay.
I did all of the teaching in the office setting. It was when I came to Florida and worked for Lee Health that I would do community outreach where I would do lectures, and, people would come to the lectures, and I lecture about fibroids or abnormal uterine bleeding or, whatever. And people would come to those lectures. So now I'm just kind of continuing that, but now that I have my own private practice, continuing it in different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. And I know, because we've had interactions in some of those circles where I see you interact with your sisters, and they are so inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost seemed like for a lot of individuals that would even want to be in a space like that, I think the time for a lot of them is like, I don't know.
It's a lot of years. It's a lot to get to this point.
Yeah.
And it's hard work. It's not easy.
When you guys do like the networking aspect, and you have women that come in and their goal is to network and, create a bond with a sister that they can hold on to and reach out to. How has that been? Like, have you find that you've now been in some events where you have sisters that want to be a part of what you have going on?
Yes, definitely. I've met a lot of women in those situations where they've either become my patients or want to collaborate and have me do a women's wellness retreat, or be like the speaker at events like that, or podcasts.
Right.
So. Other than just being my patients, yes, it's broadened out to, hey, let's collaborate.
That's beautiful.
So,
and I know this probably was a little challenging for you, but like with the music scene that was happening, back in time when you were in school and stuff like that, did you ever get a chance to even engage in any of that stuff, even though, your calling was requiring so much of your time?
Music, I would say probably not. And when you say music scene, what do you
like,
mean?
Listening to R&B or the rap music?
Oh, well, no, because we were very restricted or sheltered, and so we could not listen to secular music.
Ooh.
And not that we didn't ever hear it, because I went to my girlfriend's house and like she could listen to it, so that would be my exposure to secular music. But we couldn't listen to secular music, and we, quite frankly, we couldn't sing. Like, even if you heard it, like you weren't supposed to like sing the song. But my auntie, she was good at like, don't sing that song, baby, because you didn't know what it meant.
Right.
And now I understand why she said that. My kids was singing some song the other day, and I was like, what does that mean? Do you know what that means? And then when I found out what it meant, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I totally understand why my auntie used to say, don't sing that song, baby,
Yeah.
So, it sounds bad when a little one is singing a song that is is pretty graphic,
Right.
but disguised, you know?
Right. Yeah, because it's
So-
it's so creative the way that artists
Exactly.
did it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've kind of, I'm dealing with some of that with my
Yeah.
kids, but now I'm like, it would be good for you to listen to what that person is saying, and can that help you?
Oh,
So I
yeah.
tell my boys this because they listen to music. I have no idea what the guy is saying because they go so fast.
Exactly.
And some of it is not even encouraging. 'Cause
Yeah,
they're
most of it
talking
is
about drugs and
garbage.
stuff.
Yeah, most of it is garbage. Now, if it's an inspirational or religious, religious music, those are things that, I don't mind. And you can get religious rap, and some good religious rap that's actually talking about something, right? And educating and inspiring. So that's what I prefer my children to listen to.
I love that. How would you address like the mental health and emotional health for like in your practice, like, right, with your patients, that you would say you want to encourage like mothers or young women?
Mm-hmm.
How would you kind of package that, because I think a lot of people I think now people are starting to take the mental health aspect more serious because they've seen
As we should. Yeah.
the damage that is being done right now. Do you think like a lot of people feel like they caught it too late?
I would say in certain circumstances, yes. Now, just in general, 3D Women's Health stands for three-dimensional women's health, right? And that three-dimensional is my focus is to take care of both the mind, the body, the spirit. And if I can do that all under one roof, great, right? My goal was like, okay, let's make sure I have a psychiatrist or psychiatric presence right in my own practice, and then the family practice, and then myself, right? So ultimately, I will get to that point where I can do that. But right now I collaborate with specialist psychiatrists or social workers, people who have organizations out there who can meet the needs of my patients. Now, I myself will address certain things in the office. But once it's beyond my like expertise of like, okay, I know I can't spend that kind of time on that, then yeah, let me get you to someone I know can help you. And then when it comes to the spiritual aspect, I pray with patients. Anybody I pray with all my surgical patients, but anybody who's willing to, who has something going on or struggling with something in their life, and I offer, hey, can I just pray for you? Because sometimes there's not a thing we can do when you know that it's a spiritual battle that they're actually facing. They could be on all the meds for anxiety, depression, and bipolar disease, and they're still struggling. It's a spiritual battle, right? Yeah. So you have to address that. Yeah. But you also sometimes have to make some of them aware. Right. Because a lot of people just aren't aware of the spiritual, we got this natural world that we live in, but then the spiritual realm is real.
It is.
Yeah.
But it almost seemed like that's too much for a lot of people to deal with. So it's more often no one necessarily want to tap into that unless you're in the church space, I guess.
Well, but it should be done in all areas of our lives, right?
This is true.
Yeah.
This is very true.
Because it's happening all the time.
This is true.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of, and maybe this could be put on the distraction of the world, like, the different things that's going on, what's trending, people want to be a part, so they don't really pay attention to what's happening immediate. Would you say, for a lot of the young people now, health is kind of not necessarily in their top 5 of priority?
For the young people, no. I actually see it opposite now. Yeah. Because they have so much access to Dr. Google and all this stuff, they look up a lot of things. I mean, they really use Instagram as their health Bible, so to speak. Someone talking about, a certain topic, or they'll look up a symptom and say, okay, what is this? Yeah. Now, oftentimes they get misled, but it brings them into the office with questions already, or sometimes they're self-diagnosing. But I try to discourage that. But even still, they come in with a knowledge base that has not been typical of people in the past, or like your older group of patients.
Right.
They don't come in with that same knowledge base and ready to ask those questions, ready to fire off the questions of what's happening with my body.
Right.
So I see a big difference, and it's the younger generation that's actually more educated and knowledgeable about their own health and taking control of it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, as accomplished as you are, you know, and, you know, you're now a mom of 4.
Yes.
And how challenging was that? Like, you know, with where you got to, and then to try to balance what the home life was,
Yeah.
you know, with your husband, like, did you find that it took too much out, or it took a lot out of you, or you find a way to handle it?
It took a lot. Just raising 4 children, or giving birth to 4. Giving birth to 4, breastfeeding, you know, all of this while I was in residency,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And residency itself it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It really is. It was probably the most brutal part of my training,
Right.
but the most necessary, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be where I am today without that part of the training.
Right,
So,
right.
but I can honestly say, you know, with the help and support of my husband,
Yeah.
he was truly the mama daddy, you know.
Oh, okay,
You know,
okay,
where
yeah.
I couldn't be there to breastfeed, you know, but yet I could pump at
You could pump
at
so you
work,
can
and
get them
then
bottles,
here's
yeah.
the bottle, come pick it up, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it took that level of stress, knowing that my kids were being taken care of
Right.
by a parent, as opposed to, I never wanted them to be raised by daycare, you know, just
Okay.
never
Yeah.
have. I've always wanted to homeschool or have a nanny, or, you know, whatever
Right.
whatever I had to create to make sure they weren't raised by someone else. And so we were fortunate to allow him to be able to raise them
Yeah.
and take care of them and just be the support that I needed, so that I could keep going in my training
That's
with
beautiful.
at least distractions possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like that. And for the most part, it's safe to say that you have really disconnect yourself from the distraction of what was going on in your community, in your neighborhood, and all those things while you were getting your residency.
While I was in training?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. There were too many things on my plate. I mean, there were certain things that you did. Obviously, you had to figure out how to balance. And I don't know that any of us did a great job at balancing our lives to get
Right.
exercise, to,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
it was a lifestyle that you had to rush to eat. You had to, you know, forego drinking water because you're running around taking care of patients or trying to learn this and learn that. You know, that was a hustle in of itself. You know, so I didn't learn any balance truly while I was in residency. One of my Dr. Maxwell told me this was a good thing that she told me this, because it actually helped me to get through residency. She said, you know, because I'm used to being a straight A student, like my goal is always perfection.
Right.
But she was like, Eeka, you are going to have to learn that you can't be an A in everything.
Right.
You may not be, you have to learn to be okay with being a B+ mom and a B+ resident, or, you know, each role, each hat that I wore, I couldn't strive to be the best in all of it, because it would just stress you out.
Yeah.
Like you can't survive trying to be A+ in everything.
Right.
And that was the best thing that she told me, because it did allow me to give myself a break.
Yeah.
To say it's okay, Eeka, if you make a C, or you're a C this, or you're a C that, because I had mama guilt, you know, like there were so many things, just the psychological aspect of it, you know, and then being a person of color, they didn't make that easy. Boy, oh boy, they didn't make that easy.
Wow.
Not even patients, you know, patients who refuse to have a Black person serve them, or, you know, unfortunately, we're still dealing with that 10 years ago, you know, 10, 50, even nowadays, we're still dealing with it to a certain degree. So there were so many aspects that didn't make it easy.
Right.
Yeah.
For a lot of individuals, they've seen where a lot of mom became mom very young. And so the ones that have daughters, let's say a mom is 38 and her daughter is 19, 20, or, you know, in her 30s, because she had that.
Yeah, had it young. Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of them want that advice. And how do I deal with this rebel daughter that, you know, because I was in this space at this time, but now I'm trying to help them not do what I did.
Yeah. That's always a challenge. I think that's everybody's, you always want your children to be better or do better than what you did. So really you have to show them better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to be the better
like that.
example
Wow.
for them. And I think sometimes that generational, I had a baby at 16, then this one has a baby at 16, my mom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It becomes generational because of what that child sees.
Right.
You know, it's like, do as I say and not what I did, but that's not how kids do.
No,
Yeah.
they need action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Do you think like in nowadays with like a lot of what's going on, technology have kind of taken the forefront
mm-hmm.
in a huge way and have consumed a lot of the younger minds and
Mm-hmm.
stuff with maybe, and you said it earlier where you think it have kind of flipped.
Yes.
The young people now
Yeah.
kind of, they're taking to their health, and the older, they have other things they're trying to figure out.
mm-hmm.
And I know we're in like this paradigm shift right now, but what do you think like would even say like the older generation, and I don't know if we want to go far back as, because we got millennial, we got, what is it, Gen X, and then
Gen Z.
Gen Z. So, well, in your opinion, like, you know, what, which generation you feel right now is the most aware with what's going on and is trying to do their best?
The ones in their 20s.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah. You know, and unfortunately for them, they have different kind of hard times than we had.
Right.
Yeah.
That is true, you know.
it's
That is true.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, unfortunately, it's because of technology that it is driving some of their hard times. You know,
Right.
for example, I feel like these kids don't know how to communicate. They don't,
Right.
a lot of them don't know how to communicate, probably because they're so used to just texting each
Yeah,
other, like
yeah.
as opposed to getting on the phone and having a conversation.
Right.
So now they don't know how to have a conversation
Right.
with another person or an adult who
Yeah.
knows how to have a conversation, right?
Right.
You know, they're used to giving these short answers, you know, whether it's the acronym DIY, you know, or OMW, OMG, like they're used to dealing in acronyms. And so their mind doesn't know how to voice the full
Right.
thing, the full picture of anything.
You
So
know,
it's
you know,
interesting.
It is interesting how you said that, you know, because one of my son kind of did something similar recently, and I said, dude, we're in the same house. Don't never try to communicate with me in the same house.
On the phone.
On the phone. Don't never do that. I mean, you know where I'm at. You come there and you talk to me, because all this letters that mean something else.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the older school, like, you know, like myself, you feel like they need to adjust to what that look like, or you can still instill some of that old school stuff to kind of keep them grounded, I guess.
Yes. I think there's a balance. For sure there's a balance. You know, kind of one of the balances is don't text me while we're at home. You know, come and have a conversation.
Right.
Because how else are you going to learn to conversate?
Yeah.
You know? So there's a balance, because I myself use acronyms, but I know how to type. I know how to write.
Yeah.
You know, they've taken cursive, learn how to write in cursive out of the schools. And it's like, what? These kids need to learn how to write. Everything is not going to be text or computer all the time. They're going to have to sign their name. You know, nowadays they're printing their name. It's like, no, you need a signature.
Right.
Learn cursive,
You know,
basic stuff.
Yeah, we were put in a situation. We went to a restaurant with all the kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go into our table, we're passing a family.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone at the family was on their phone.
Yep. You
And
got to
my
have rules.
And my son was asking me, Dad, why can't we do that?
Nope.
I'm like, dude, make it make sense.
Right. You're at a table. Enjoy dinner. You know, enjoy each other.
But you feel like, and I guess I think most people would say technology have consumed a lot of families, and
it has. And I actually we struggle with that in our household. And I actually had take the phones
Yeah.
to say, no, you need to read a book.
Yeah.
You know, funny story, just the other day, you're probably going to laugh at this. Just the other day, my 11-year-old, she saw a picture of me in Jamaica and she was like, oh, you were in Jamaica? And she was like, isn't Jamaica in Europe? I said,
No.
excuse me? I was like, oh, you are going to learn some countries and some continents, you know?
Yes.
So she was like, well, they don't teach us geography, you know, at school. I was like, I need to stop paying this school.
Yeah,
if we're
yeah.
not learning where Jamaica is, like
Yeah.
simple place. I mean, it's where
Right.
our people, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, I was so hot. Oh, I took that phone with the quickness. And
Yeah.
that globe, I pulled out that globe. I said, here you go. Now learn every country in Africa and every country in South America.
Right.
And we'll start out with those 2 continents.
Yes.
And you learn those countries and you'll get your phone back.
You know where that is.
Yeah.
And I remember when me and the whole family was going to Germany, and I was telling my son, I said, it'd be good sometime if because they have those TVs where you have option to see where the plane is.
Yes, I
and
love
it's
that on the plane.
passing,
Yes.
what it's passing. And
Yes.
I said, dude, to know where you're going and to, get familiar with where you're passing and all that, you can look at that instead of watching a movie or playing a game or whatever,
Or even spot check it, just to see.
Yeah, every now
I
and
like
then,
doing
So for them, that was pretty cool for them because
Yeah.
they liked what it looked like, and
Yeah.
then, because technology is really doing
it's
doing this thing. As far as your practice go, how much technology do you use there to help with a lot of what you do now with helping the women that come there?
Mm-hmm. Well, I am, now that AI is kind of a big thing with helping us, so to speak. I'm starting to trust it a little bit.
Yes.
Just a little bit, because I
Yes.
really don't trust AI. But but I do think that it probably is a necessary evil. Unfortunately, it's probably a necessary evil eventually, because now that my practice is growing, the more and more patients I see, the quicker I need to be about doing my notes. And they have a AI software where, it'll help you. It'll listen to what you're saying and then put a note together and make it easier. So now I just review, I could just review the note. So I've been like inching my way over there gradually, like, okay, do I try it? Do I try it? So I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But yeah, the technology hopefully will help me be more efficient, faster. Yeah. So I'm not staying till 9:00 at night doing notes.
There you go. That is beautiful. Someone said to me the other day, the movie's been kind of telling us what's going to happen with the AIs and stuff. I feel like if we're being shown certain things, we gotta at least figure out a way to steer that, right?
Yes.
For that not to necessarily happen the way they're saying, oh, this is gonna happen like that.
But we don't have control over that.
This is true, though.
So I think the movies are correct.
Yeah.
They predict a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's not just the movie maker is, making it up. Something in history has shown them that this is going to be the future, right? Yeah. Usually the future has already started 10, 20 years ago, and then it comes out to us, to the public. But, even the flying vehicles, that's already out, right? Yeah. So it's like, we knew that the Jetsons predicted that when I was 6, so that was 40 something years ago, which means, so something told them back then that this was going to be something of the future.
We're getting there. There. Wow.
So
it's interesting, the space we're in now. So, with a lot of what you do, like outside of work, what is Dr. Eeka like doing outside of being in the practice?
Okay. Well, I would say the thing that I do to help me relax or have balance is I do run. I train for races. I've got a race coming up next weekend, actually.
Nice.
In Tampa. So I like to exercise. I like, my focus. I feel like if I'm going to preach health, then I need to be the example of that.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah. So, and then, I like to play any sport, honestly. I rollerblade. I'll play tennis. I'll play volleyball. Like I'll play sports that, are presented to me. And then I'm just adventurous, scuba diving, skydiving, any of that is what I love to do. Yeah.
What advice would you give to young people that, they go for the web to look up advice on certain things, but most time it possibly not factual? What would you say to them to, ensure, this is what you're trying to understand, to kind of steer them more to a factual space? What does that look like?
Well, usually they're going to start with Google, right? That's just the search engine. I have actually using it myself to see what's out there, what knowledge they're getting. I see that the AI, that's usually the first thing that comes up. And the AI does pull from a lot of factual information. I've seen it reference studies or, ACOG articles, or I've seen AI actually put together because it has all the knowledge, right? Everything that's online, the AI pulls from it. And so you can get some factual good information. But if you really want to know, then you need to go to, say, for example, if you're talking about menopause, well, there's a Menopause Society website that will lead you to factual information as opposed to just relying on Google to produce or spit out that knowledge for you. So
I like that. With where society is now, and a lot of the engagements that are unfolding, how do you feel diversity and inclusion is meshing and doing? How do you feel the two is coexisting?
It's better than when I was first in my training.
Okay.
And I mean, now that I've kind of moved out of that rim and become more independent, I don't have to deal with that as much because right now I'm my own boss, right? I don't have to deal with someone, putting any kind of pressure on me or treating me different or, I could say no to being, to collaborating with you. I don't have to put up with that. You know what I mean? So, so I would say yes, for even for our young people, it's better than it has been, but we still have this society still got a ways to go. It's like we keep just getting these little setbacks. I won't get too political, but sometimes it comes from the top. It comes from the top down, right? Your leaders kind of dictate the culture in your society, right? So if your leader is showing animosity towards a certain group of people or, just hateful, then you're gonna breed that in society. People are gonna think, oh, that's okay to do that again. Right. And it's already embedded in them, obviously, but, they try to even do it subtly or try to do it not at all, but it's there in them, but they, some people know how to suppress that. But if you got a leader who's acting up, then they're going to act up as well.
I got this crazy question to ask you because a lot of guys been like, okay, we got to make a choice, but we don't know which one is the best one. They get these two options. They have a beautiful young lady that they would score at the top of whatever number it is, but she works at a job that she's making $15 an hour. She has no kids. And then their next option is a woman with 2 or 3 kids that makes 6-figure and has a master's degree, but is a single mom. They want to know what's the best option. Who should they choose?
Well, I mean, I guess, it might depend on your personality. Do you want to nurture somebody or do you want to be nurtured? Because you might have a lot of nurturing to do for the person, who's making $15 an hour, you're going to grow, you may grow together. And it depends on where you are in your life too. If both of you guys are making $15 an hour. Well, you might want to grow together and build something together, where the other person who has six figures already has her thing going on. And so it may not be a space for you to come in and support or help, because she's already, got control of things, because she's been doing this for a while, raising her children and handling her business, right? So she's a little more independent probably than the other one.
So you taking this now into a space where I know my brother's going to be like, you got to ask her, bro.
That's so funny.
We got guys that are wrestling with the alpha females and not necessarily understanding how to keep that relationship, because they're like, bro, I can't do it. Like, what would you say to a guy like that find himself in a relationship where maybe he's making less than the woman? She is headstrong, she knows what she wants and stuff. He's not necessarily getting his way. What do you think should happen there? Should he step away, or should he?
I wouldn't say step away. What I would say do is allow her to express herself, allow her to be who she is without putting too many thumbs on her. Because if you put too many thumbs on her, you're going to lose her.
Ooh, you hear that?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Don't try to control her. Don't try to be her daddy.
Yes.
You be who you are and get involved in what you are doing. Focus on you yourself, becoming the person who you're supposed to be, and doing what you can do to just support her, because she's going to do her thing. Let's just be honest.
You hear it.
She's gonna do her thing.
I like that. I feel more so than a lot of what we're hearing, because they had this huge debate came out where they had one celebrity wife said they got to do everything 50-50. A lot of people had a lot of issues with that, because they're like, if he's making money, he need to cover it 100. What is your take?
I mean, honestly, I was raised, to think of marriage as in we're one. So everything goes in the pot.
Yes.
Where even though I make it, it's still yours.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you might have rules set that you say, okay, well, if you spend anything over $500, let's talk about it so we can agree, put it in a budget or whatever you want to do with it, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like putting it in the pot makes most sense, because that division, if you start out with a marriage that's divided financially, you're going to stay divided in a lot of other areas of your life. And it might not show up until 10 years, 20 years from that point. But you're going to see division in other places. So it makes sense to me to come together.
Just put it in the pot.
Put it in the pot. Then it doesn't create the mindset of division. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just from the start.
But because you said something there that is really awesome, you want to make sure everyone is on the same page when it comes to the spending part of it.
Yes, that's important.
Yeah, like a guy open the bill and see she go and buy her shoes for $4,000, and he's like, whoa.
No, that's out of control.
Yeah,
she has a divided mindset.
You didn't read the memo.
Right. So you still have to lay down some ground rules, right? That you agree with, you know? So you may say, okay, 100 or 500 or 1,000, but whatever that number is, you guys honor that, right? So you're each other's accountability.
So, and and I know you're speaking to the ladies here as well.
Yeah.
Once it goes in the pot, it shouldn't matter who's making more, right?
Absolutely. It's going to pay the bills, right? Everybody's going to be taken care of. That's the goal, right?
There you go. I like that. I like that. It's a beautiful thing. I know we've, a lot of individuals, so you guys are welcome. That are dealing with a lot of that type of stuff and just feel like, because the old school, way where they've seen where the dad just wants the mom to stay home and he provides and, all these different things. But then there's now, and I'd love to hear your take on this, because this was a little crazy and it got out of control, and, it kind of went in a way that a lot of people didn't expect it to go. Okay. But this guy, he was working 2 jobs and, making sure he pays the mortgage, struggling. And then 10 years later, he found out that his wife actually owned the house.
Oh. On her own? Like her name is the only one that's on it?
She'd been on it, but she hid that.
Oh.
So he didn't know because he was paying the mortgage
right, like it was
making 2 jobs and
that's awful. So it was deception from the start. That's what it sounds like. She was deceiving from the start, which makes you think, well, what else was she deceptive about in the relationship? Was the love real or was it deception?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that makes you question that kind of stuff as well.
You know, I think for a lot of people there, because they do have that challenge right now, is how do you know? Because people would say a woman can figure out a guy more often than a guy can figure out a woman. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
I'm going to say, I think it depends on how open that woman is. Like I'm the type of person that I will express. Like if we're best friends, I'm telling you whatever's on my mind.
I love that.
Right? So I made myself vulnerable to you.
Right.
You know, in marriage, if you're each other's best friend, then the vulnerability is not a problem.
Right,
You've committed to this person anyway. So you make yourself vulnerable so they know every part of you.
Right.
They know your thoughts, your deepest thoughts, your fears, your insecurities, everything.
Right.
So then when it comes to, you know, like getting to know you or being able to predict anything, it should be quite easy, right?
Right, yeah.
If you know that person.
You hear, guys? So. Pay attention, guys. Because I think women pay more attention than guys. So sometimes. Not all the time. Wow.
No, because all women aren't detailed oriented. All women aren't detailed oriented. Yeah.
You know what? I could agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I could agree with that. But I think they get a pass, I think. Especially if they look good. Depends on who is dealing with the situation.
Okay.
They get a pass. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I agree with that, actually. Yeah.
We wrestle with all that. You know, we're in our final moments of the show. And I would love for you to just kind of bless our listeners, you know, just with a little bit of advice on, you know, especially introverts, on pursuing a goal, especially if they feel like they have surpassed a certain age and they don't feel like that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. Like, you know, what kind of encouragement would you give to just soothe them?
I would say, you know, because I'm a woman of faith, I would say your biggest strength is going to be your faith in God.
Yeah.
Right. And knowing your purpose.
Yeah.
You know, even that there are some people who don't know their purpose at age 50, you know, but you're blessed if you know your purpose. And it's not hard to seek what that is.
Right.
You know, it's usually going to be tied to the gifts that God has already given you.
Yes.
You know, so,
yes.
As an introvert or whatever vert you are, you know, you can rely on your purpose to drive your life, thrust your life forward. Right? You can't be lazy. You can't be lackadaisical. You have to be persistent.
Yes.
Right? Even as an introvert, you even if you're not the type of person who say, oh, I can go out and network and this and this and that, there's still ways that you can interact without the extroverted type of activities.
Right.
So, you know, keep pushing forward and just be persistent at whatever it is that you're choosing to accomplish.
I love that.
And it'll get there.
Ooh, you heard that.
Yeah.
You heard that. How can people find you, Dr. Eeka?
So my practice is 3D Women's Health. It's in Fort Myers, right around the corner from Edison Mall, off of Evans Avenue. So 3949 Evans Avenue. Suite 107.
Okay.
I'm open 8:30 to 5:30. I take walk-ins. I do everything, all things gynecology and a lot of cosmetics. I'm a menopause specialist. I do body sculpting and obesity medicine. So
nice.
Yeah, you can find me. I do a lot of things. I've got a lot of support for you.
Yes.
So
wow. That is amazing. You guys have got a wealth of knowledge today and some entertainment as well. So this was beautiful. I got to tell you, because, you know, the team at EHAS, you know, some of the members, they've been eyeing you. They've been watching your work and they're like, you should ask her if she would help us in some of her capacity, especially mental health and mental health.
Yeah.
So I'm putting it on the show, guys, because I did speak to her on it, just so you guys know. But for the team, would you be interested in helping EHAS with some of what that look like when it comes to teaching the mental health and the health and wellness?
Absolutely.
Ooh,
Absolutely.
you guys heard it. You guys heard it. It's a beautiful thing.
Put me on the team.
There you go. There you guys have it. Another amazing episode of the Stories to Create podcast right here at EHAS Club. Until our next episode where we have another decorative guest. Dr. Eeka, thank you.
Of course.
Yes.
Always my pleasure.
This was beautiful. We're out. Oh my God.
Thanks for tuning in and downloading this episode of Stories to Create. We appreciate you being part of this growing community of storytellers and listeners. If today's conversation inspired you, please share the show with friends, family, or anyone who could use a little motivation in their journey. A special thank you to our sponsors, EHAS Organization, Cornell Bunting LLC, and Nostril Cheese Chase for supporting the mission and making this podcast possible. To learn more about our work, upcoming projects, and how you can get involved, be sure to visit www.EHAS and www.cornellbunting.com. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and remember, your story has power.